Hey, Brandon Allen here at Allen Music in downtown Paducah, Kentucky. And today, joining us for our very important musician series is good friend Daniel Neihoff. And so, Daniel, thanks so much for joining us today.
Appreciate you having me. Yeah.
And so, with Daniel, I've known him since you were what, like 16?
Yeah, actually earlier than that.
Really?
I think I started playing bass in church whenever I was about 13.
That's right.
And so I didn't even have a way to get myself there. I had to ride with my brother.
Right.
And he was just like, hey, you're playing bass in church. And I was like, I've never played bass. And he was like, it's easy.
He got that from Pastor John, because Pastor John, remember, I started going to church there, and he was like, hey, you're leading worship. And I'm like, I've never led worship. But yeah, so me and Daniel and Jonas, his older brother, helped start the very first praise team, right, at Faith Center. And so that's where we got to know each other, I guess. And then you started coming into the music shop, and Jonas called me up and said, hey, my little brother needs a job. And so that's when I think you were, what, like 16?
Yeah, I started working here whenever I was 16.
Yeah, so you've been working off and on at Allen Music since you were 16, and which was super cool for me because that gave me a chance to follow his career from scratch, you know, because I mean, when you were 13 and 16, you didn't have a career yet. So,
yeah, some people would argue I still don't.
So that leads us into one of my favorite questions is, what inspired you? Like, at what age did you say, I want to be a singer, I want to be a songwriter, I want to be a musician, I want to be a performer?
Well, you know, growing up, I watched my dad play guitar, make up songs like every day. And so, like, I didn't know that it was an option to do that as a career. I just thought that was just something people did.
Right.
You know? So he'd come home and he'd pick up a guitar and he'd make up a new song every day. And I just thought, man, like, that's such a great way to just kind of get the day off of you. You know, it was a good way to just like kind of decompress. And whenever I was about 7 or 8 years old, something like that, I started playing guitar and started writing my first songs.
No kidding.
Yeah, and I wrote what I knew. You know, like I which at 7 or 8 years old isn't much, but you know, I had a very devout relationship with God, and at that time I was thinking, you know, like, this is the thing I'm most passionate about. So obviously this is what I want to do, is just write songs to God. And so the very first song I remember writing, I wrote one, If I Had These Characteristics of God, you know. And so at about 8 years old, I wrote one, and it was, what could I have seen if I had your eyes? Could I see the very strings of life? What could I have known if I had your mind? To who could I give sight who was still blind? What could I have felt if I had your hands? Could I feel the very heart inside this man? And it went through these different characteristics of it. If I had God's mind, and God's eyes, and God's hands, how different would I be, and how much of an impact could I make? And the chorus was just a cry for those things. It was, you know, I want your eyes, I want your heart, I want your mind, set me apart. I want your love, I want your fire, I want to burn with desire. And so that was like the earliest song I ever wrote.
Man, that's incredible.
I just fell in love with it. You know,
yeah.
I loved writing, and after I wrote that, I realized it feels really good to make people cry, because that's what happened. Is everybody cried, and I was like, man,
tears of joy.
Yeah, I like it. I like this feeling of, you know, making people cry because they're moved.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because I said something mean, but that came way later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you had a lot of help with making people cry out of meanness, because you were the youngest of
right.
How many brothers?
6 kids.
Six kids,
yeah. It was.
You had to fend for yourself.
I had a lot of picked up aggression, I found out, you know, and so I've worked through most of that.
Yeah. But that gives you more material for songwriting.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah. It's and you know, I wrote, you know, like I said too back then, I wrote what I knew, and then as I've grown and as I've developed a little bit more as a musician and as an artist, I've learned that you don't have to experience everything that you write about too. You know,
that's cool.
Like I used to think you have to live this crazy life in order to write great songs, and then I heard of Angel from Montgomery by John Prine.
Mm-hmm.
And you may not know this, but John Prine was not an old woman that lived in Alabama. And so I was like, well, hell, like, you can just lie. Like, I didn't know you could lie.
And for all of you who thought that John Prine was an old woman from Alabama,
I hate to burst the bubble. John Prine is not an old woman from Alabama.
So the cool thing about that is, I think you do well. I mean, your personality gauges people well. You're a people person. I know you've been one of the best salesmen we've ever had, but it's because you relate to people well. And so putting yourself in other people's shoes is helpful with songwriting.
Absolutely, yeah. And you know, like, the best writers are the best listeners. You know, like, that's good. That's really, like, if you take the time to watch the world around you, and first you feed the beast before you release the beast. You know,
Amen.
Like
you
gotta be able to take some time to really just look at the world and find your inspiration sometimes. And I've sometimes it's easier than others. You know, I mean, everybody has those moments of writer's block and all that. You feel like you got nothing to say. And if you've got nothing to say, it means you haven't been listening enough, probably.
Oh, wow.
So,
that's super good.
And that's the thing that I've really, like, tried to dive into more than anything is writing songs. You know, 'cause I love playing guitar, I love singing, and I love performing more than I ever have. But I started writing songs because I had to, not because I wanted to. It was because this is something that's in me that I want to get out. And it was, you know, being the youngest of 6 kids, it was cheap therapy. It's cool.
And if you do need therapy, I mean, like Daniel's a really good listener.
That's right, yeah.
And he can put all your emotions into a song.
That's right, yeah.
That you can sing and release those emotions.
I mean, I'm running out of stories, so I'm working for something. So.
Right.
But yeah, that's really where my passion has always been, is in the writing more than anything. And so that's why I started doing more as far as, like, trying to do commissioned songs. I did a song where somebody sent me some information about them and their boyfriend, and I took all that and kind of compiled it and created a song out of it for them to be able to give to their boyfriend for their anniversary. And so stuff like that, writing songs for special occasions. And about to do my first workshop over at the Clemens for songwriting, to try to kind of teach people, you know, how to get through those writer's blocks, some different exercises, foundational things that you can do.
Yeah, so that's super cool. So coming up, you mentioned Clemens. That's WKCTC, right?
Yep.
The local college here out on Highway 62. So is that going to be open to the public? They can sign up and take that course?
That's right, yeah. So it's $25 to sign up.
That's a bargain.
Yeah, and it's 2 days too.
Wow.
So you can come for both days, or if you don't have the time to do both, then you know, the first day is going to be mostly the foundational sort of fundamentals of writing. Where you draw your inspiration, how you flesh out that idea, some different techniques to kind of help you get there. And then the second day is going to be specifically for co-writing too, because co-writing by itself is quite a bit for some people. They kind of get in a room with someone who they may know or may know just fairly well, and then they don't know how aggressively they need to push their idea, or how much of compromise they need to get to. And so that's a whole different skill in and of itself, is basically being able to work with people. And like I said, kind of being a people person, that's something that I really enjoyed doing whenever I was living in Nashville, was writing with other people, and wrote a ton of songs. I've got 456 songs.
Oh my gosh. 456 songs already?
I just
counted. And how old are you now?
I'm 30.
30. So we got to figure out how many songs per year that is. And we're back. And we took a short break to do the math. 456 songs a year at 30 years is 15.2 songs per year.
That's right.
Assuming you started writing songs right out of the womb.
Yeah, as soon as I was born. So I wrote my first song whenever I was screaming at the doctor. It was my only metal song. That was I don't do a lot of scream on it, but I did whenever I was just fresh out of the womb.
Yeah. So back to the Songwriters Workshop. We got day 1 is foundational principles. Day 2 is
more diving into the co-writing side of things, you know. So, and we're gonna have, like, actual time to get together and real life practice of that. So it'll be an opportunity for you to try that if you haven't ever tried it before. And it's not gonna be like you got to have a song done by the end of this. But,
right, yeah.
But it's going to be an opportunity for you to just kind of go through this as an exercise, so that whenever you go back home and, you know, say you want to write with your buddy instead of writing with a stranger, you
right.
kind of have a little bit of experience with
yeah.
that, so that you know where you're headed and kind of how to work with that relationship.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. And I got the honor of co-writing a song with Daniel for my daughter Ashley. One of my bucket lists is to write a song for each of my kids and for my wife. And so Daniel helped me co-write one for Ashley when she turned 20 years old and was about to move out for the first time. And so just kind of a send-off song that was kind of cool. But so I guess the most recent thing that you did also was at the Clements.
It was, yeah.
Which is where the Songwriters Workshop is, but you also did a concert there, right?
I did. Well, we did a project there with PBS.
Wow,
and so
okay.
I got to go there and kind of tell some stories behind some of my songs.
Nice.
Play a few of them, and out of that came out and had a live album that we took some of the audio from that, and we've got I believe it's a 7-song album.
Okay.
And I've got one with me here, but.
All right, let's just grab that. Super cool album cover too. So
I can't take credit for the artwork or all that. You know, that was actually Todd Birdsong.
Todd did that? Yeah. Well, he's a customer, right?
Fantastic photographer.
Yeah.
And he was great to work with on all of this. Like, we had a great time putting this project together for sure.
Well, way to go, Todd Birdsong, man. This is super cool. And so you can buy this album at Allen Music, or you can get it on your website, right? Is it available there?
I won't have it on my website just yet, but I'll be putting it on my website soon for sure.
Okay, cool.
And you can also get it. I'll have it at that workshop, and I've got some live shows coming up here in Paducah as well.
Okay, cool. And so the previous album to this one was called what?
Appalachian Pride. So that was my first album, and that one was kind of like my first time ever really in a recording studio and figuring it all out, and had a great time. Had some really great players on it. Josh Coffey, who everybody knows is a fantastic fiddler.
Right.
Jake Senior, Eddie Dunlap.
Oh my gosh.
So like all those guys who are just unreal musicians. Somehow I coerced them into playing on that.
Right.
So I was really blessed to have them be a part of it, and they all made that album just fantastic. I mean, it was really fun to be able to work with them. Yeah,
and I mean, I've listened to, I've got to hear so many of your songs through the years, and it's brilliant stuff. And he has made me cry a lot of times, and
sometimes not even with music.
No, I mean, there's so many times the lyrics and the emotion in your songs do well up inside people, and just gives me chills a lot of times. And then like I'm fighting back tears. It's like, oh, it's gonna look really stupid, me crying at Daniel's song right here in the music shop. But so both of those albums will be available here at the shop if you want to buy them, or like he said, he'll have them on his website. Your website is
just my name, DanielNeihoff.com.
It's easy enough.
Yeah, and I've got it on my guitar so that people know how to spell
it.
It's one of those weird ones to spell for some folks.
Right. Too. And did you use painter's tape?
I did.
For that?
Yeah.
Because you were a painter.
Right there.
You were a painter, right? When you were a teenager.
That's true, yeah. So I wasn't why I did it, but that's totally what I'm going to tell people now.
That's brilliant,
man. Never like let the truth get in the way of a good story.
My daddy was a painter. Family business was painting. Painter's tape to remind me of my roots, right?
Man. My roots right there.
Yeah. So, well, let's talk about this guitar real quick, and then if you would play us. How would you want to play a song from the new album?
Yeah, sure. I'll play one from the album, and I'll play one that my wife actually likes.
Oh yeah.
This song's called "The Same Road." Come on, son, let's go to town. You ride over the stomping grounds. You don't
To go 20 years back in time. There was a soda fountain at the old drugstore before Doc had to close the doors. It's where my high school used to be, but now it's just a memory. I know that you can't see it, but when I sit here I still feel it. The street names are etched into my bones. That sewer cap was home plate, old Miss Johnson's driveway with her babes. Back before they tore down all the homes. If you didn't live it, you wouldn't know that it's the same road. The only thing still here's the part. You lie in the grass and watch the stars. Now the street lights burn too bright, and the buildings block the sky. Well, I know that you can't see it, but when I sit here I still feel it. The street names are etched into my bones. That sewer cap was home plate, old Miss Johnson's driveway with her base. Back before they tore down all the homes. If you didn't live it, you wouldn't know that it's the same road. Oh, the scenery has changed, but that road is still the same. I know that you can't see it, but when I sit here I still feel it. The street names are etched into my bones. That sewer cap was home plate, old Miss Johnson's driveway with her base. Back before they tore down all the homes. If you didn't live it, you wouldn't know that it's the same road. But it's the same road.
That's beautiful, man. That is so good. That's good stuff. So, the inspiration, obviously, I mean, to me, I'm like, as I'm listening to that, I'm like, he grew up there. You know, like that's such good stuff.
Yeah, that song came from a conversation with a guy in Nashville, and he was talking about where Montgomery and Broadway kind of meet there, out there by Winners and Losers, and he had been there forever, and you know, it was funny because he looked out and he saw an entirely different city than I saw. You know, he saw where Chewy's is, where that used to be where all the guys, whenever they would get the royalty checks, would go over there, and they had like a little place to gamble out back.
Oh my gosh.
They gamble off part of their checks. And then where there's a really nice hotel down at the end, that was a different type of place that I probably shouldn't mention. But I mean, it was just funny to me how, you know, I started thinking about how much our city has changed.
Yeah.
And how, you know, even for myself, like my high school isn't a high school anymore.
Right.
You know, it's completely a different town in such a short time. But when I drive back there, it still feels the same.
Right. You got there's this weird emotion
Yeah.
that wells up inside of you when you drive down
Absolutely.
certain roads, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah. You know, it's funny what our like subconsciouses can do, you know, too. I was heading home from work, this has been a few years back, and man, my mind was just racing and I skipped my road that I live on now, and I started driving. I was driving back to the house that I grew up at, and so I don't know if I was just supposed to go there for some reason or what, but you're right, man. Things change.
Yeah.
And I mean, like downtown Paducah has changed so tremendously, and hopefully for the good, right? I mean, like
absolutely, yeah.
So, so that was from the new album, and you're calling that Live at the Clements?
Yeah, Live at the Clements.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so one thing I wanted to ask you about, as you were touching on the Songwriters Workshop, and then you were talking about co-writing, and then you were talking about relationship being so important. You know, I've noticed that like relationship is super important for me, you know, having a small town family business, you know, it's just building relationships and getting to know your community well, and having a heart to serve. You know, I think you have a heart to put smiles on people's faces, to build work emotions up in people, just to make them stop and think, stop and smell the roses kind of thing, right? And so what is a song that I guess that you have written, maybe go to your the Appalachian Cry album there. Was there a special song? I know all of your songs are special to you in that moment, but was there a song that just really touched deep to your heart, you know, with roots to something in your life?
Well, I wrote one that's not on either of the albums yet. And,
okay.
I wrote one after the tornadoes in Mayfield.
Oh, wow.
And you know, my dad had told me a long time ago that if you write a song that is just sad and you connect with people in their sadness, but then leave them there, then what have you really done for them? And so sometimes that's like the low hanging fruit as a songwriter is like just write the sad song.
Yeah.
You know, and so whenever the tornadoes hit, I wanted to write a song that really encompassed some hope inside of it.
Okay.
And do that because I know that that's what people need inside the midst of tragedy. You know,
Amen.
When we had our apartment building burned down in Nashville.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, I wrote a song about that too. That was called Fire and Light, and it was something to kind of give me a little bit of hope in the midst of that. And it was about how in the midst of fire, like even though it's this all-consuming, like harsh thing, it still provides this light. You know, you can still, if you look into the fire, no matter what the fire is, it's always going to illuminate the situation.
Yeah.
And that was where I found the hope, was in the midst of that fire. The light that I found was the people around me who came in and they loved me and they took care of me and my wife inside the midst of this.
Yeah, because that was like right before COVID.
It was during the middle of COVID.
Oh, in the middle of COVID, yeah. So you pretty much lost almost everything.
Yeah, in May, the entire apartment building basically burned down. We were fortunate to be able to save quite a bit, but you know, it was still like we just didn't have a place to go. You know, we were living with my in-laws, and they were super gracious and super great to be with during that time too. But there was a lot of uncertainty. You know,
I mean that's devastating.
Oh yeah.
And that can really mess with your emotions and mess with your mind a lot when you go through something like that. So that's really a neat testimony to the gifting that you have inside of you of songwriting, to be able to express those emotions and then find, like you said, find hope, find a silver lining, and then who knows, somebody else that's been through that same type of situation.
Yeah, and that's exactly what
what you're sharing
too, is people who have been through that.
Right.
They listen to that, and that was one of the best messages I ever got, was from somebody who had gone through a similar thing, and they said, man, that song gave me so much hope. Like the anniversary of whenever their apartment had burned down was coming up.
Oh wow.
And their boyfriend had died in the fire too, and so it was even more of a traumatic experience.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And so like being able to write songs that have that hope really means a lot to me, and so that's why I wrote that song about Mayfield, and it's called Foundations.
Yeah.
And
are you willing to share that with us today?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. This is Foundation. So, and just a little background too. I was trying to figure out a way to find that hope in this song, and I was listening to the news, and the reason that this idea kind of popped up was watching the news. They said we won't really know how many houses were lost until we can count the foundations that were left behind.
Oh, wow.
And that was a really heavy statement, but at the same time, I felt like there was hope in that, because even though that storm had taken so much, there was still something that it couldn't take. It was the things that were rooted in the soil that you could still build on.
Wow.
You know? And so that's where that song came from.
That's amazing. That's so good. Yeah.
In the war against the wind, there are no winners. Only some who have more love than the rest. 'Cause when the storm rips through the city, it's easy to believe there's nothing left. But underneath all the wreckage, there's hope there to be found. 'Cause after all the dust clears, you'll find a strength that even nature can't tear down. Those foundations left behind give us hope of what's to come. 'Cause even though the loss is great, we got something to build on. We ain't starting back at zero. If we keep digging, then we'll find those foundations left behind. Although times get tough and I get weary, may lose track of where I've been. I hear my grandma in my memory. She reminds me who I am. Those foundations left behind give us hope of what's to come. 'Cause even though the loss is great, we got something to build on. We ain't starting back at zero. If we keep digging, then we'll find those foundations left behind. Build on generations past, storms and timbers never last. We stand on family, friends, and faith, 'cause love can't blow away. Those foundations left behind give us hope of what's to come. 'Cause even though the loss is great, we've got something to build on. We ain't starting back at zero. If we keep digging, then we'll find those foundations left behind. Those foundations left behind.
That's beautiful stuff, man.
Thank you.
That is so good. That is incredible. So you're, yeah, I mean, there's such hope in that, you know, such
Yeah.
a silver lining there.
Well, that's really, you know, what I wanted to try to capture, because, like, you know, it would have been easy to just write a song that was about just how bad everything was. But, you know, like, that's not what the world really needs.
No.
For the most part. They need,
Right.
sometimes it needs a swift kick to the butt to let
Yeah.
them know what's going on, but sometimes it needs people to just remind you of where the love is. And
Exactly.
and it's really easy to find things to discourage you if you're not even looking.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's hard to find that hope, and my dad telling me that all those years ago really stuck with me, and really tried to really keep that in mind whenever I was writing that one too.
That's good. You know, and you reference your dad a lot, which I respect and appreciate dearly, because, you know, I'm so close to my mom and dad growing up here at the shop and getting to work with them. 40 hours a week all my life. And so I have many people ask, like, how do you do it? Like, how do you get along? So, work 40, like, I can't imagine, like, we're buddies, I mean, it's like, we're friends. I respect what they've done and the foundations that they've laid for me, and now my kids work here, so I'm so appreciative of your reference to your dad and how much respect you have for him. And I think you wrote a song a while back and shared with me about him. I think it had a line about a baseball glove.
Yeah.
Do you remember
so
that?
That's from the first album, actually. Yeah, it's called I See Memories.
Okay. And that one did make me cry, dude. Like, the first time you played that at the shop, you came in. Daniel would always come in, and like, he'd get to work and he'd be like, "Hey, dude, listen to this. Check this out. This came to me last night," or on the way to work. Like, he would just get an idea or a thought in his head driving down the road, and then he'd have to, as soon as he walked in the shop, he had to get a guitar to, like, put it into play, And the first time you played that, it was just like, oh my gosh. Would you care to especially to feature, your dad and your relationship with him, but also the Appalachian Pride album? Because that was on it, right?
Yeah, that one's actually on both albums too.
Oh, really?
The Appalachian Pride has a full band version, and then the live album is just me and a guitar.
Okay,
So,
cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So this one's called I See Memories. Never understood why my father crammed so much stuff in that house. It got to be so full, it was hard to even move around. My question was answered when I said, "Dad, let's get rid of this junk." He said, "Son, you don't realize what you're giving up, 'cause you see a baseball glove, but I see a father's love. You see a rocking chair, but I see your granddad sitting there. You see a gray toolbox that weighs a ton, but I see my favorite moments working with you, son. You may see some things that I don't need, but I see memories. Every item had a story. You see, you walked me through our past. I realized what my father really had was a time machine in disguise. So back in time, to my old man. And when I picked up that gold ring, he said, "You're holding history in your hands." 'Cause you see a wedding band, but I see a bride on the beach in the sand. You see a white lace dress, but I see her looking her best. You see a beat of old guitar, but I see the tool I used to win your mama's heart. You may see some things that I don't need, but I see memories. Then he put a leather book in my hand, said it's the most important thing you'll ever read. Every time I thought that I was holding it was holding me. 'Cause you see words on a page, but I see my saving grace. You see a golden cross, but I see my God when I was lost. You see a Bible about to come apart, but I see the light when things got dark. Right now you may see something that you
is so good. That's so incredible. I do have a tear in my right eye from that. That's because I can relate to that stuff, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that one was kind of a cool story too. I had written about half of it because I was at this lady's house and she had this painting of a boat up on the wall, and I liked the painting. I like boats, and so I saw it and mentioned something about it, and she proceeded to tell me like where she got it, why she got it, why it meant so much to her, how it moved with why she came from her other place. She put it right there because she could see it more whenever she's eating. You couldn't really see it whenever you were eating, whenever you were inside the other room. So all this stuff, I was just like, oh my gosh, okay. So it just went on, and after she said that, you know, she was an older lady. She was probably pushing 80. You know, she's had a lot of stories, you know, and a lot of memories. And I said, you know, I bet you probably got a story like that for everything in this house. And she got kind of serious for a second and went, you know, when you get to be my age, you don't keep anything that doesn't mean something to you, and doesn't have some sort of memory with it. Yeah. And I said, man, like I just saw a painting on the wall, but you saw a memory. And I just started going off, and I wrote that first half, and then got together with this girl named Joy Beth Taylor, who is fantastic songwriter too. Yeah. And we finished that song, and she released it as the title of her EP. Oh wow. And then she got signed to Kane Brown's label as a songwriter, and so which I haven't got a check yet, but working on that. That's why I still use masking tape on my guitar. But no, it was a really special song. As soon as we were done with it, we knew it was something special.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites that you've ever written, for sure. So I wanted to just double check with you when your next gig is live, and I mean you have 456 songs. You're never short of material for a gig. So you never have to play the same song twice.
That's right.
for at least a year.
Yeah. if I'm only doing one song every couple of days, then I've got 15 songs a month for 30 years.
So when are you going to play live again?
So I'm playing at the Johnson Bar. I actually have two shows there. One is the Acoustic Tuesday show. Okay. And then one is going to be a Saturday, one of their just weekend gigs. But the Acoustic Tuesdays over there is pretty much all original music. Okay. And so if you want to hear more of my songs, you can come that day. Okay. I believe that is. It's coming up here this month, actually. So
and you can is that on your website too? Your schedule of public versus private? Because you do a lot of private party stuff too. Yeah, you get booked for things. In fact, I mean, like your talent is now takes you all over the entire nation. Like, and you just recently got back from songwriters competition that you do. You get invited to that like every year.
Yeah. So I do. I've had the pleasure of competing in Songwriter Serenade down in Texas 3 times and being a finalist each time, finishing 4th twice, and so I'm really good at losing that one. But I also came in 3rd at the Woody Guthrie Songwriting Festival and their songwriting competition, and I won at the Kerrville Folk Festival down in San Antonio. I was one of the winners for that back in 2019, and so I've enjoyed doing some of those songwriting competitions. It's one of those things where it's hard to really gauge judging songs and judging art, you know, but it's very it makes you feel good to know that there's somebody out there that has value or gives value to what you do. And so just because anybody out there who writes songs who may do that may not win doesn't mean that your art's not good either. But it's just another way to get your songs out there and to get some other opinions on it.
Well, I've only written a handful of songs myself, 6 or 8, and I've thought sometimes, you know, like the enemy will attack your mind and say, like, you know, what makes you think you're worthy of writing a song or good enough to write a song? But then I felt like God told me, like, there's somebody out there, like He wouldn't inspire us with something if there wasn't somebody out there, even if it's one person,
Absolutely.
to touch their lives with music and with hope and with emotion.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, like the people who write songs, you know, there's definitely those staff writers who are trying to write hits and things like that too. But
Right.
most of the time, if you write a song, it's for you. You
Yeah.
know, like,
Yeah.
and so whenever you know you get those thoughts of like, what right do I have? Well, it's not something that you have to earn. It's a fundamental right of everybody to feel.
Yeah.
You know, and all you're doing is putting those feelings to words and putting emotion to melody, and that's everybody's right. If you want to write a song that nobody else ever hears, then that's still fine.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's part of that workshop, that you know your motivation behind why you write is just as important as how you write the song. You know?
Yeah.
And so that really gauges how you would really approach it. And so anybody who wants to write should write, not because they think that they're good at it or bad at it or want to get better, or they
Right.
think that anything like that. They should write because they've got something to say. You know,
Amen.
everybody has
Yeah.
something to say. So.
That's good, man. Before we finish up, you know, we talked about the songwriters. So I want to ask you two more questions. Maybe the songwriter that inspired you the most, like their style. Who is there somebody that you, I don't want to say idolize, but maybe like respect and look up to, and that their style or their genre gives you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got a lot of songwriters who I really aspire to be like, and who really inspired me. And my dad is one of them. My brother is actually one of them too. He's a fantastic writer.
Yeah, Jonas has written some good stuff.
So
Yeah.
But you know, as far as like,
I knew you weren't talking about Sam.
Well, yeah, you know,
Just kidding, Sam.
Sam's written some great letters to companies that did them wrong. Just kidding. No, my dad and my brother are two big ones for me. But but as far as like popular influences, James Taylor, John Prine.
Yeah. I was thinking of James Taylor.
Yeah.
Like when you were singing.
Love James Taylor, and you know, and then more modern with like Tyler Childers and Jason Isbell and Chris Stapleton too. I love all types of music and all genres too, because it wouldn't exist if there wasn't something appealing about it to somebody.
Right.
You know? And there may be like some songs that are better within these different genres, but every genre has something of value.
Oh yeah,
otherwise
for sure.
it wouldn't exist. You know.
Yeah. Well, we hosted Josh Williams
Yeah.
about a month ago for one of the very important musicians, and his genre is bluegrass.
Yeah.
And
Bluegrass
man,
has some of the best storytelling.
it's
too.
some good
I mean,
stuff,
and
you know.
Great musicians. Like Billy Strings is one of my favorite
Right.
musicians right now. Molly Tuttle, she's fantastic.
Right.
And so there's a lot of young guys coming up in bluegrass who are really good too.
Yeah.
And some of my favorite songs ever are Echo Mountain and The Bed by the Window.
Yeah.
By Rick. I think it's Rick King. But he's an amazing storyteller.
Yeah.
And those are stories that will break your heart. You know?
Right.
And,
Yeah.
So that's, like I said, every genre has some sort of a merit to it.
So we'll put you on the spot here, and we can edit this out if you don't like it. But so one of the things that happens at these songwriting competitions is like instant songwriter challenge or something like that, right? Does something like that kind of happen?
It's more of a challenge I put on myself typically.
Did you procrastinate and wait till the last minute to
Yeah, sometimes that's the case too.
But you're talented enough to get away with that, right? So,
sometimes. So
Yeah.
there's definitely been times whenever I've tried and failed, but more times than not, the trick is just being so full of crap that you always have something to say.
So one of the things that I love about downtown Paducah is the river that's just a block and a half or so from the music shop. And I know that my dad used to love to take a little break from some of the chaos or busyness of the day and just take a walk down to the river. And he might even go by Kirchhoff's and grab some day old bread and throw it to the seagulls, or whatever. it was a nice little stroll, a nice little stress reliever, relaxing to kind of, cast the cares aside for the day. And I've found myself doing that from time to time. And I would even, when my kids were little, I would take them for little walks down to the river. If they'd come to work, daddy daughter or daddy Sunday, take them to work with me. For lunch break, we'd walk down to the river, feed the birds, just walk along the water. It's a really several special moments, special memories happened, between 215 Kentucky Avenue at Allen Music and the river right there. So I thought that would be fun if you just kind of did a little instant songwriter challenge and put something to that. What do you say?
Absolutely, let's give it a shot.
So,
All right, so this is our song about the river.
yeah.
See where it takes us. No pun intended. It's like my daddy did before when hell was beating down the door. I'd walk down to that riverside. It didn't take too long for me to realize what was wrong was all on the inside. So I'd ball up all those fears, ball up all that hate, throw it in the river like a stone. And as I watched all that water wash away everything I've ever known, come down to the river and let your love be washed away by the flow. You may not realize what it means when that river flows through, when that river flows through, when that river flows through you and me. Now I take my children and watch the tide, and I teach them how to be kind, just like that river you once taught me, as it flows like a melody. Come down to the river, let go of that heavy load, and watch as it flows. A million miles away till the skyline is come down to the river, my friend. I'm still learning how to let myself go, 'cause I'm starting to realize it ain't too hard to flow. All you have to do is let the weight of this life go. Just let it go. Come on down to the You can't change the tide. So don't fight the motion. The river flows. Just cut the weight and let it go. Cut the weight and let it go.
That's amazing, man.
There might be something good in it.
I think there's something there, man. So that's super cool. I just wanted to do that with Daniel, for Daniel, to give people some inspiration and some hope to see kind of like some of the process that you go through. You know, like, I assume that's kind of what you do. You get an idea, you grab your guitar, you find a melody, you find a rhythm,
Right, yeah.
and you just let it flow, kind of like the river.
Yeah,
You just kind of let.
Well, that's part of the songwriting process. Is you know, I heard a great piece of songwriting advice was great songs aren't written, they're rewritten. And so,
Oh, wow.
and so like getting that first one out, you know, like
Yeah.
most songs don't come out ready to go. Like you gotta work on it a little bit. And
Yeah.
So,
And the cool thing about that is, like, you know, you'll record yourself doing something like that, and then you'll listen back to it, and then another idea will pop in your head, and you might tweak something here or tweak something there,
Yeah.
and then over time you'll form it,
Exactly. Yeah.
and then finished product comes about.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You don't take a piece of stone and hit it once with a hammer, and then
Right.
all of a sudden Michelangelo appears.
Right.
You know, you carve it away a little bit at a time
Yeah.
until you finally reveal
Yeah.
the final form. So.
That's super cool. Well, so this interview wouldn't be complete without Daniel doing his signature riff. Every time he would walk into Allen Music, we'd get a new guitar, and he'd check it out, you know, because like as a salesman at the shop, he would want to demo everything, so he would know what it's got, you know, and there was this signature riff that you played, and it became fairly popular in the shop enough to where my son Andrew, he started he heard it enough times, he started learning it, and then he asked you for some tips, and he was like, how do you do that? You know?
Yeah, I don't have very many tricks, but so this is it. So.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Running that scale. So.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So this guitar happens to be, what is that?
That's a D18 EMD. It's $35.99. It's got a hard shell case. It's got a Fishman Aura VT pickup in it. And it's good sounding guitar, plays great.
Yeah, we just traded for that not too long ago, but it's near mint. It's clean as a whistle.
Yeah.
So that's one of the new Modern Deluxe. The E is for electric, and MD for Modern Deluxe. So Martin's coming out with a lot of cool stuff, and this is a cool guitar. But I thought, you know, we'd break that one in with one of your riffs on that.
And there's hardly anything better than a D18. Like, I love Martin D18s. So
Yeah.
It's definitely probably one of my favorite guitars.
Yeah, same here. In fact, I had traded for a D18 from recently from an old customer, and it was a 2002 model. So I gave that to Andrew for his 20th birthday because he's a 2002 model. So, but his favorite is a D18 as well.
They're great guitars for sure.
Yeah. So Daniel, it's been an honor.
Thank you again for having me, man.
Yeah, I love what you do. Everybody needs to check him out, danielneihoff.com. Go to the Clements for the songwriter workshop. That is just such a cool experience. Like I said, just getting to co-write a song with Daniel for me, like I want to do it again. You know, like it's super fun. You learn so much from it. So if you can make that workshop, it's worth it.
It's $25 registration. It's going to be over the course of 2 days, and we have a limited number of spots. So I think we only have like 25 spots because we want to make sure that we're giving everybody the right attention that they deserve to. So.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way too, so we're gonna give away one of the new albums, the Live at the Clemens, Daniel Neihoff acoustic album. So the way we're gonna give this away, I don't know how else to do it, but leave a comment and with your name, I guess, and we'll put that in the hat. And Daniel or I will draw names at set date. When do we want to do that? When do we want to have a drawing? When's the Clemens workshop?
October 1st.
October
1st and 2nd.
All right, so let's do that. Let's do it then.
Sounds
So
good.
October 1st, the weekend of the Clemens workshop, we'll have a special drawing to win his latest album. And like I said, leave a comment to get your name in the hat to win the album. So, hey, thank you guys for joining us for this very important musicians series with Daniel Neihoff. God bless you and have a great day.